Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of BVM Sports Chalk Talk. This is episode number 16, the post-Super Bowl edition. I'm Lucas Semb here with Scott Procter and Matt Morris. And because all three of us bet on the Chiefs, we will, of course, have to talk about what went wrong for Kansas City in the Super Bowl. And then we will discuss the upcoming NFL draft. But, Scott, we saw the Kansas City Chiefs, led by Pat Mahomes, go without a touchdown versus the Buccaneers on Sunday, a complete domination of the favorite. What is your biggest takeaway from Super Bowl 55? Why was Tampa Bay able to dismantle the Chiefs?
Yeah, it's a lot to that, Luke. We weren't right about much last week when it came to previewing this matchup, but Matt, you did get something right. Tyrann Mathieu was an X factor because he poked the bear that is Tom Brady. That exchange in the first half when they both go at each other verbally and Mathieu ends up with an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, that's exactly what you don't do to players like Tom Brady. Like all the greats across sports, they just need a reason. Look at MJ with the Last Dance doc here recently, or Brian even recently in real life when someone in the crowd steps out of their body. All it takes is one poke and you end up looking silly. The Honey Badger had the gall to pull this against Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, and I just can't fathom it, as great as Tyrann Mathieu is. So the story of Super Bowl 55 is very much Tom Brady, but also Bruce Arians and the staff that he has assembled that did what I and many others thought was the impossible on Sunday. Holding that all-time offense to 0 touchdowns is something no one saw coming. Defensive coordinator Todd Bowles learned from his mistakes in Week 12 when Tyreek Hill went ballistic and had 200 yards before you could even blink. Bowles had the winning game plan, which is create pressure on Mahomes with 4 and allow your athletic backers, Levante David, Devin White, and your excellent secondary to cloak the back end in zone coverage. The result was Mahomes' worst game as a pro and him running for nearly 500 yards on scrambles before passes and sacks. 497 yards running laterally back and forth, just trying to create time for his O-line, trying to create time for those receivers to beat zone coverage down the field. That's how you beat the Kansas City Chiefs. There's a blueprint out there now for teams with the talent, of course, to pull it off. On the offensive side, Byron Leftwich, offensive coordinator, who Tom Brady has lauded all season as the real engine behind this offense, even more so than himself and Bruce Arians, called the masterful game, mixing the run, the play action, the screen game to perfection. It highlighted the Bucs' offensive strengths, got multiple people involved, and gave his defense ample time to rest up for the Chiefs offense. The Bucs weren't going 3 and out after those first 2 drives. They were sustaining drives, and, back to the point, Bowles, Leftwich, special teams coordinator Keith Armstrong, and even Tampa Bay's assistant head coach Harold Goodwin are all black men, which is obviously unprecedented. Bruce Arians deserves a ton of credit for making an effort to have his coaching staff match the landscape of the world and his team. This should serve as a prime example of diversity in the workplace and, of course, the NFL and how you can win and succeed at the highest level with such a commitment. So, that was my biggest takeaway. Obviously, we all had the Chiefs, but Tampa Bay was the better team top to bottom, and, the better team won on Sunday.
Yeah, you're right, Scott. We were wrong about basically everything. I got to, once again, admit that I chose the offense versus the Tampa Bay, and each time Tampa Bay's defense proved me wrong. And in such a master stroke by Todd Bowles, it was brilliant. And the one inkling that I have to redeem myself is that I did say last week Shaq Barrett would be a game changer and an X factor. And it was absolutely right. And to go just build off of what you said, that defense was unbelievable. Only 9% of Mahomes' dropbacks went against the blitz, but he still had over 34% pressure rate with 4 rushers. And not only that, there were 29 QB pressures, 10 QB hits, 9 passes defended, 3 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, and 2 interceptions. This defense was dynamic. It was just something that Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Eric Bieniemy could not figure out. And you know what? At the end of the game, when Antoine Winfield went to Tyreek Hill and gave him the peace sign, it was totally on par with what went on that entire game, because what Tampa Bay did to that Kansas City Chiefs offense was disrespectful. They dared Pat Mahomes to beat them, and Pat Mahomes couldn't do it. And it was impressive. And going forward, that's what you're going to have to see against the Kansas City Chiefs every single time a defense steps up against them. It was brilliant.
Hey, watch your mouth. Pat Mahomes definitely could do it. He just had no help, and I'll get to that. Matt, I'll let you finish your point.
Not just no help, but nobody, whether it was Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid, or Eric Bieniemy decided that they wanted to adjust or adapt to what Tampa Bay was throwing at them. Tampa Bay didn't change anything. And that was the other part of this, is credit to Todd Bowles and the Tampa Bay defense for coming in with a game plan that was effective. But, the fact that Andy Reid and Bieniemy and even Mahomes in the game calling audibles or just diagraphing what he saw, they didn't change anything. And that was unbelievable to me. So, honestly, Brady was the MVP. All credit to the GOAT. But Todd Bowles and that defense were the real MVPs of that game.
Hey, absolutely. Credit to the Buccaneers defense. We knew they would be causing problems for Mahomes with the Chiefs' weak offensive line and the Buccaneers' elite pass rush. We knew these things. We even talked about the Bucs secondary deserving much more talk than they were getting. At least I did. I brought up Antoine Winfield Jr. and Carlton Davis. And Scott, you said something to the effect of they're too young.
Yeah. Hey, Luke, you're absolutely right, man. I'll own up to that. I definitely dismissed, that secondary last week, more so just because of youth and age as opposed to, talent. I knew those guys can play, but, being in this stage in the Super Bowl at that young age, I wasn't ready to buy it. But
they showed up.
They sure showed me wrong. Yeah.
Right. I think they proved if you're the real deal, you're the real deal. This Bucs defense ramped it up even another level, probably the best performance we've seen from them all season. So credit to them. They had 29, as you alluded to, Matt, 29 QB pressures, the most ever in a Super Bowl. And actually, percentage-wise, that was over 50% of his dropbacks he was feeling pressure. But I think this Chiefs downfall is pretty much self-inflicted. All season long, Mahomes has been scrambling. That's nothing new. That's what he does, and the Chiefs have made plays. This Sunday, none of that. Mahomes was scrambling and nobody was getting open. Mahomes ran for, like you alluded to now, Scott, 497 yards before getting off a pass or eventually getting sacked. The Chiefs became spectators. Nobody was moving. Nobody was getting open. And we knew this because if they were, Mahomes would get them the ball. He threw a pass 30 yards while parallel to the ground, and it hit Darrell Williams in the face mask, and he dropped it. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about. Drop passes. Mahomes hit another receiver in the face, Tyreek Hill, literally in the face, and he dropped it. It just clearly wasn't the Chiefs' night.
Same with Travis Kelce. Even early in that game, I want to say first or second quarter, a key third and long, Travis Kelce just drops one that he just never does. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. And, it seemed like that was just the kind of night it was for Kansas City.
Absolutely. And Mahomes did everything in his power to give them a chance. 497 yards, that's bad on the Chiefs for letting that happen, but credit to Mahomes for staying even alive that long and letting the plays, giving them a chance.
Not to mention that Patrick Mahomes is undergoing turf toe surgery on Wednesday. So,
right.
His injury was obviously downplayed throughout this entire playoff series for good reason, of course, but, that was another, hindrance that they obviously just couldn't overcome.
Right. Bottom line, he just did everything he could, and they still couldn't score a single touchdown. The Buccaneers played great defense, but come on, Kansas City, you're better than that. These were self-inflicted wounds on Sunday night where, they should have at least got the ball in the end zone once.
Yeah.
But now odds are already out in Vegas for next season's Super Bowl. The Chiefs are once again the favorites as they seem to just run through the AFC these days. But let's look at the NFC. Matt, do you think the Bucs can repeat as NFC champs next season?
Well, they have a huge offseason coming ahead with a lot of key players going into free agency. And Mike Evans has already admitted that he'll take less money to help bring back the players. And I'm sure if Tom Brady wants to help out as well, he's done it in New England, he might be able to help out also. This is a team that Tampa Bay has shown, they caught lightning in a bottle this season. This is a great team. It's a young team. It has a great mix of veterans that come up and to play along with young, talented stars and Pro Bowl type players. So if they re-sign guys, they're absolutely in the mix. I am simply not going to say that they are the favorites in the NFC because I think there is some tiers to this. The top tier, as currently set up, is the Bucs, the Packers, and I think the Rams, presumably with Matt Stafford. Then, assuming you get the healthy 49ers, Seahawks, and Saints, they're the second tier. And honestly, if you look at all those teams and assuming they have a solid offseason and a draft, each one of them has a good enough chance to come back and win the NFC. And it's just the NFC is so much more competitive than the AFC. I think there's no doubt that the Chiefs are the favorite. There might be a few teams like Baltimore or Buffalo that could, be in the mix and compete with them. But the NFC is way more competitive, and I don't think the Bucs are the favorites by a large margin or, even by a close margin. It's a toss-up.
Yeah, Matt, I like your breakdown of those NFC tiers. I think that's pretty accurate. It makes a ton of sense. But check it. Tom Brady is the GOAT, and the GOAT of many things at that. Another thing you can add to that list is the GOAT of recruiting. Nobody who scored a touchdown for Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl, Leonard Fournette, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, none of those guys played for the Bucs last season. And Tom Brady is the reason each of them were there. So even if you aren't sold on this Bucs roster as currently constructed for next season, it'll probably look much different and probably better than it already does, because there will be guys in free agency, as you alluded to, Matt, who simply choose to play for and with Tom Brady. Chris Godwin is a free agent, along with Levante David and Shaq Barrett, obviously two big defensive pieces on that Bucs team. But Allen Robinson, Kenny Galladay, Luke, you love to assume that Aaron Jones is already gone from Green Bay. Imagine if any of those guys are added to that Tampa Bay Bucs team. And I bet you they would after what they watched on Sunday night. And, most of all, it's Tom Brady's leadership and the way he brings the best and most out of everyone. It came out after the game that all Super Bowl week, Brady texted everyone saying, "We will win," at 11 p.m. every night. Who does that? It takes a one-of-a-kind leader to get everyone to believe in. Tom Brady is simply just that. The Packers will be on their way, I agree, and the Rams with that defense and an upgrade and quarterback will certainly be in the mix, but Tom Brady continues to reinvent himself, and I will dismiss it no longer.
Sure. I think the Buccaneers will most definitely have a chance to repeat. Anything can happen on any given night, and they'll have the weapons to win those games. And Mike Evans even told the Bucs to use some of his personal money to bring the band back together. That just goes to show they themselves think they can do it. Bring back Super Bowl Lenny Fournette, bring back Gronk with Brady. They can for sure, but I don't think they will. Last week I said the Rams are the favorites, and I'm sticking to that. This Buccaneers defense is 100% coming for the throne of best defense in the NFL. But the Rams still hold it right now. They have the number 1 and number 2 defensive players in the league. And again, you add Stafford to that mix of Woods, Kupp, Higbee, Reynolds, their trio of running backs. This team will once again.
What do you mean the number 1 and 2 best defensive players in the league? What do you mean by that?
Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey are the number 1 and number 2 best defensive players in the NFL.
So Jalen Ramsey is the second best defensive player in the NFL?
Correct, yes.
You couldn't be more wrong. Don't ever say that again, please.
So now this team will once again.
Disrespectful to so many different players.
To who? Name some.
Jair Alexander, Khalil
TJ
Mack.
Watt.
He's not there yet. Jair Alexander is not there
TJ Watt.
J.J. Watt, no, he has a lot of injuries.
TJ Watt.
T.J. Watt, no, yeah. Hey, he was a toss-up there for Defensive Player of the Year.
Exactly.
But if we're talking about consistency, he's been getting better and better. But this was a breakout year that we haven't seen him at this level yet. Once he can do it consistently at the level we see Jalen Ramsey do it, year in and year out, and against
both of the boasters,
top offensive wide receivers that we see, week after week.
We got all day.
Yeah, well,
we love Jalen Ramsey over here. Hey, we love Jalen Ramsey over here, right. But don't do too much, please.
Okay.
Continue, though.
So, anyways, as I was saying, you add Stafford in there with Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Higbee, Reynolds, their trio of running backs. This team will once again have the firepower we saw them have in their Super Bowl appearance season, making them the favorite in my mind. Do you think Matt Stafford isn't going to come out motivated? He's had such a good career, and he did it in lowly Detroit. He's probably itching to take the field with this team right now and do something meaningful. It was a match made in heaven, and a motivated Aaron Donald is a scary Aaron Donald, even scarier than normal. He came out on Monday talking about how he won't be happy until he's holding the Lombardi trophy. And, now that's in their realm. I don't see anyone stopping them next season, so give me the Rams.
You don't see anyone stopping the LA Rams last season. That's completely hilarious. Look, first off, we talked about this last week. The Rams defense is superb, but they lack depth. If one of those guys get hurt, they do not have the free agency. They do not have the capital, the money, the cap space to address what they need to on the back end of that defense. If any of those guys get hurt, 6 or 7 of those guys make up more than half of their entire cap room. The team just won't have depth, and especially when you're comparing them to the NFC elite.
Here we are once again, and I know that's what these shows are about, but once again, we're sitting here talking about what ifs. I'm talking about what we see on paper right now, what the Rams have right now is going to make them the Rams.
You're picking the Rams when you haven't even seen the Rams play a down together with Matthew Stafford is literally a what if, a completely.
That's the biggest what if of this show right now.
If someone gets hurt, we're talking about if someone gets hurt. If that happens, then we'll have a different conversation.
Stafford is good with them.
We'll have a different conversation if that happens. Say that again.
If Matthew Stafford plays well.
That's not really an if because we've seen him do it every single year. So
We've seen him never win a playoff game.
You go into this season knowing he's going to play well because he's in Detroit. We've discussed
knowing
this
that.
times.
Come on, Luke.
Here's a what if. I've seen the two teams that I think are ahead of the Rams just play in the NFC title game, and it was close. The Packers had a chance to come back, and those were self-inflicted wounds that cost them that game. The Bucs,
and you're talking about a team who just lost in the divisional round.
The Bucs are clearly better than the Rams. The Packers beat the Rams.
With Jared Goff, you were missing the whole point.
Matthew Stafford
is a proven fringe elite quarterback. We know what he can do every season. So if he comes into here with his weapons and he has the season that he had in Detroit last year, they're going to the Super Bowl.
Okay, Matthew Stafford was maybe the 13th or 14th best quarterback in the NFL this year.
Maybe on that stupid list that you made at home, but in real life, he wasn't number 13 or 14
on the season. He was the 13th or 14th best quarterback this season. If Matthew Stafford plays like he did this past season, the Rams might make the divisional round. You're talking about they're going to win the Super Bowl? If he plays like that, Matthew Stafford will have to be one of many players on the LA Rams roster that takes a huge step forward for the Rams to do what you're saying that they're going to do. That's ridiculous, bro. I mean, you should look at what Matt Stafford has done. We all agree. We've all stated our point and our thoughts on Matthew Stafford, his talent, and what he's done
fringe elite
his NFL career. But to say that he's able to walk into LA and do what he's done throughout his entire career, and the Rams are going to make a Super Bowl, is absolutely ridiculous. And you need your football card taken away. You really shouldn't be allowed to talk football anymore.
There has been no slowing down in Matt Stafford's career. We've seen no regression. We've seen him year over year put up numbers with absolutely nobody. Mm-hmm. We've seen him do things and get this applaud from guys like Tyrann Mathieu and Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is probably the most skilled QB ever. So you take what he's done, you insert that into their offense. I don't care who might get hurt. That's such a big what if. I'm talking about on paper, their numbers, put them together. These guys are winning the NFC.
What was that point you just said about Aaron Rodgers? The MVP of the NFL this year?
The most skilled
coming back.
But Aaron Rodgers stop for a second with that Aaron Rodgers talk. Holy cow. He doesn't have the weapons that Stafford is going to have. He can be as good as he wants to be. Hey, we just saw this. On Sunday. He can be as good as he wants to be. Pat Mahomes, right?
Luke.
And he didn't even score a touchdown. So it doesn't matter.
Aaron Rodgers with quote-unquote no weapons still scored more than Pat Mahomes with all those weapons. Rodgers has the best wide receiver in the league with Devontae Adams. It doesn't matter who's next.
What are you talking about weapons for? Rob Woods and Cooper Kupp? What?
Kyler Murray had DeAndre Hopkins. And what they do? I don't care if you have one good wide receiver. You need more. Need more.
Oh my gosh, with those weapons,
this is the ultimate team football
but the Packers defense still beat the Rams with the weapons that they have. Nobody can say the Rams aren't going to be good. Listen,
football is the ultimate team game.
It is, and that team lost to the Packers.
What?
Like the Packers and the Bucs.
You keep talking about this. Hey, I'm not talking about 2020. This whole question was based off of who's going to do it next year. I'm not talking about the Jared Goff Rams. I'm talking about the Matthew Stafford Rams. So
what if?
For the love of God, stop talking about how the Packers beat the Rams because it just is. It makes no sense.
Stop talking about weapons. Stop talking about weapons as if the Rams have better weapons than the Green Bay Packers and the Tampa Bay Bucks. Stop that. It's nonsense, and it's absolutely ridiculous that you think Matt Stafford is going to walk into L.A. with those elite weapons that he has. Rob Woods and Cooper Kupp are not top 10 receivers. Stop acting as if he's going to be able to step into that situation and win your Super Bowl. It's not. No.
Woods, Kupp, and Reynolds are all better than the next best guy in the Packers offensively.
Okay. And Devontae Adams is better than all three of those guys.
Like I said,
Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are better than all three of those guys. So what are we really talking about?
Yep, they are. But again, I'm gonna give the Rams defense the edge here over the Buccaneers. And the Buccaneers, I said they're coming for that throne. But right now, collectively, you put it all together. I got the Rams. I'm ending this conversation right there. With the season now over, we can look towards the draft at the end of April. And one of the most asked about questions right now is which QB should be taken second in the draft. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion that Trevor Lawrence will go number 1 to the Jaguars. But after that, who's deserving of coming off the board next? Scott, what are your thoughts and where could this player land?
Yeah, so Zach Wilson is the clear-cut answer here and should definitely be the second quarterback taken. Joe Theismann, who obviously won the Super Bowl and MVP with Washington, said over the weekend that he'd take Wilson number 1 over Trevor Lawrence. Now, I like Zach Wilson over every quarterback in this draft class, not named Trevor Lawrence. And it's for reasons that I've highlighted already on this show.
This argument is really getting stale. We've talked about it on this show.
So stop making it. If it's getting stale, stop making it. Because it is absolutely is getting stale. And I'm sure we'll address that, and we'll get to that in a little bit here because you can't help yourself. But Zach Wilson does things with his arm, with power or touch, and also always with accuracy that you just simply can't teach. He's incredibly mobile. He can make off-schedule plays and throws in a 6'3" frame. He's not a small guy. He's a guy that can step in as a rookie and belong with obviously immense potential down the line. The New York Jets should absolutely select him with the number 2 overall pick unless Robert Saleh and his staff deemed Adam Gase was too much of an impediment to any possible success for Sam Darnold, which would be completely understandable. I personally believe Sam Darnold can still be good in the right situation. And if that's the case, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Carolina or Denver trade up from 8 and 9 respectively to take Zach Wilson at number 2. He just might be that much of a can't-miss talent. Either way, Zach Wilson should be the second quarterback taken. And Luke, I'll just go ahead and get out in front of this before you even have a chance to spout this foolishness. The lack of competition argument is a tired one, and one that obviously draft analysts don't even buy into anymore, considering Zach Wilson is a consensus top 5 pick. We just saw Josh Allen finish second in MVP voting after playing at Wyoming. Just a few years.
And like I've said before, those are rarities, and you have to be a different breed to turn out like that. Josh Allen is a physical specimen. There's going to be a lot of upset, NFL draft scouts when Zach Wilson turns out like Ryan Leaf.
No. I'm with Scott on this. Once again, Luke. And it's Zach Wilson clearly is the second best quarterback in this draft. And the Jets, even if they believe Darnold is rebuildable, and I think he is because Gase was that bad of a head coach, I still think that it's better for all parties if the Jets trade Darnold, get him out of there, get him a new look, get him into a new atmosphere, a new city, and they go and allow Mike LaFleur and Robert Saleh to draft their guy. Simply because you trade Darnold, you add even more draft capital to the crazy amount of draft capital they already have this season. The Jets have 2 picks in the first round right now, 1 in the second, and another 2 in the third. And it's insane. Just imagine another first round, which would most likely be what they got for Darnold. GM Joe Douglas has an offseason that will make or break his career, period. Not just the draft capital, but almost $100 million in cap space. This Jets team can basically do a full rebuild around Zach Wilson in 2 seasons, and most of it going on in this season. And the other thing that is so important is Zach Wilson, if you just watch the game film, he knows how to play in a Mike LaFleur style offense. It's a great offense that has been shown to have success both in the 49ers with Shanahan and in Green Bay with his brother, Matt LaFleur. And David Pollack actually compared Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers, who has had a revitalization of his career with that offense that Matt LaFleur runs in Green Bay. It's a match made in heaven. And if you draft Zach Wilson, the Jets are going to be great, and Mike LaFleur will have his quarterback that will allow him to run the offense the way that he wants to run the offense. And it's going to be a huge turnaround for the Jets. If they do it correctly, we might all be surprised at where the Jets end up at the end of the 2021 season.
Okay, well, here I go. I feel like this decision is very easy, and it was just further solidified in the college football playoff. It's Justin Fields. This man really came out against Trevor Lawrence and the Clemson Tigers and threw for 6 touchdowns on 22 of 28 passing to advance to the national championship. The real question here should be, can Justin Fields push Trevor Lawrence for number 1 overall? So if we're talking about who goes off the board second behind Trevor Lawrence, of course it's Justin Fields. He played in the Big Ten, one of the best, if not the best, college football conference in America, and he dominated it. He's the most NFL ready right now and probably has the most long-term potential. He's a top recruit to OSU for a reason. He dominated that level for a reason. And it's not like their defense was amazing. This was a team that generated points behind their QB. Fields is a pass-first guy, but he was the second highest graded non-running back rusher last season behind Florida's Emory Jones. He has all the tools to succeed at the next level, and OSU QBs have failed to do that recently, but he's going to right that ship.
There it is. I didn't even have to go there. That's hilarious. You bring up Justin Fields is dominated in the Big Ten. You know who else has done that? Cardale Jones. You know who else has done that? J.T. Barrett. You know who else has done that? Dwayne Haskins. How have those guys fared? I'm curious. How have those guys fared?
Not great, but you got to take this at an individual by individual approach. It's obviously not a great look for OSU QBs, but Justin Fields isn't Cardale Jones. He isn't Dwayne Haskins. He's different than those guys. And Barrett was a wide receiver.
He is different than those guys. I think he's more like a Jalen Hurts, who can step in and with time in the right system in a year or two, who's probably going to be more of a run-first quarterback at the beginning of his career. That's who I see, Justin Fields as right away. And, man, I love that you brought up David Pollack, who says that, Zach Wilson could possibly, or he likens him to Aaron Rodgers. That's David Pollack, who obviously covers college football for his entire, for his job for ESPN. Yeah. And Joe Theismann, who's a Super Bowl winner, MVP winner, who said he'd take him number one. Are we really going to trust Luke Semb over those two guys who have played football at a high level? I don't think so. Give me Zach Wilson number two over Justin Fields. Justin Fields is a hell of a talent. I'm not, doubting that he's going to have a solid career if he ends up in the right place. But Zach Wilson is somebody that you can't pass up if you're looking for a quarterback not named Trevor Wilson, period.
Hey, Luke Semb from BVM Sports out here making a name for myself right now.
Not a good one right now.
Let me continue with my take.
It's not a good one.
Hey, I like Darnold, like both of you guys do. He was a victim of the Adam Gase experiment, so I think you have to test the waters a little more with him. A team that is very serious about getting a new QB, though, is the Carolina Panthers, who made a strong offer for Matt Stafford before the Rams ultimately won him. I think if you put him there with a healthy CMC, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, it's a great landing spot for him where, Scott, you said he might be a running quarterback at first. And, if he has those weapons, I don't think he'll have to be. And, they have a decent offensive line there. I think that would be a great spot for him to land, and it would mutually benefit the Panthers.
Hey, that's actually super interesting that you bring that up with the Panthers fit because, obviously Matt Rule is their head coach, and, his best quarterback that he ever coached in college and also brought to Carolina with him was P.J. Walker, who obviously is a, running quarterback who can obviously throw the ball as well. So that's an interesting fit. I mentioned Carolina earlier as a possible suitor to trade with the Jets to move up to take Zach Wilson. But, if Fields ends up in Carolina somehow, that would certainly wouldn't be the worst thing for him.
Now, I think Fields should end up in Atlanta, where there's a good chance that Matt Ryan sticks around and he has a few years to work with Arthur Smith, the new head coach, and develop his pro skills and be ready to take over when Ryan's contract is up. I think Fields is a guy that has potential. He's not the second best quarterback in this draft, but like Scott said, he's a Jalen Hurts. If you give him time to work on what he needs to work on and you allow him a little bit of room to grow and understand the offensive playbook that he's going to be dealing with, he can have success. But Zach Wilson goes number two, and he's going to go to
the one thing you guys have failed to even address is how he put up 6 touchdowns against Clemson and Trevor Lawrence in the college football playoffs. And no one said one word about that. How are you going to sit here and tell me right now that Zach Wilson, watching from his couch at home, who lost to the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, is better than Justin Fields? Someone make sense of it. Make it make sense, Scott. Make it make sense like you like to say.
First off, don't say Coastal Carolina like that, like they weren't a top 20 team in college football this season. But Justin Fields was impressive in that game. It was probably the best game of his career, especially given the circumstances. Obviously, he didn't look great, the following, 2 weeks in the national championship, but that's going to happen. And, and to this point, these teams that are drafting near the top, they're picking at the top for a reason, unless you're Miami, of course, who took advantage of Bill O'Brien's ineptitude and, got a high-end draft pick there. These teams drafting the top don't have a ton of talent. I would feel a lot more comfortable handing the keys to a quarterback who had to do more with less in college, who had to throw to wide receivers who won't play past college. They have to be more accurate. They have to fit into tighter windows and do more to win, as opposed to guys who like Justin Fields and even Trevor Lawrence, who play with teammates that will be drafted. Those guys are better off, obviously not Trevor Lawrence, for example, but we're talking about Justin Fields. They're better off going later into the round so they can go to a better team to where they have more pieces around them that can accent their skills and abilities.
So if you're accuracy, the arm talent, the mobility both in the pocket and out of the pocket, and not only that, at BYU, he ran a run zone blocking style offense with a lot of RPOs that is similar to what Mike LaFleur is most likely going to run with the Jets. He is built for that type of offense. He's built for a pro-style offense, and he's just more ready. He is.
What scheme would you love to see?
Ready, more ready, Matt. Come on.
Yeah.
What you're saying, you have to be.
Yeah, he is. He is.
I mean, so basically, if you're GMing a franchise right now, you would give the ball to a huge question mark over the guy who put up 6 touchdowns on the highest stage of college football. You talk about hold up. You talk about how Zach Wilson has to do more with less.
Correct.
He also plays against less. He's playing against guys who are never going to sniff an NFL game defensively. So I do not want to hear it.
All right. First of all, it's been proven in the NFL that you draft the talent of the player, not the school he went to. There are plenty of great all-pro NFL players that went in the 3rd or 5th round, or even in the 1st round, that didn't go to a good school.
Name some of those players.
That's one thing. Wilson has the talent. He has the ability. And let's stop comparing this. Oh, there's no good quarterbacks that come out of, FBS or lower style schools.
I'm not saying that. Joe Flacco, Josh Allen, but like I said,
if there are plenty of examples,
it's rare that these things happen.
If there are plenty of examples that you can easily access in that brain of yours, why is it so difficult for you to comprehend that Zach Wilson is a supreme talent, a top 2 quarterback talent in this draft? This quarterback draft that isn't even that deep.
I'm not giving the keys of my franchise to a guy who I haven't seen play against top talent, because it's going to be a huge difference coming from BYU stepping into Sundays at NFL.
Yeah, I mean, people said a lot of the same things about Josh Allen, and he just had more MVP votes than Patrick Mahomes for whatever reason. I don't know. I can't explain that.
Yeah, like I said, for the very last time, Josh Allen, people who turn out like that are a rarity. He's one of the best players in the NFL.
Yeah, you know what else is a rarity?
In the Big Ten? Joel Stave.
You know what else is a rarity? Good NFL quarterbers coming from Ohio State. That's a rarity.
That's a huge rarity.
All right, well, we're out of time here today at Chalk Talk. We're out of time here. Hey, Matt, I said we're out of time here today at Chalk Talk, but join us next week for another episode where I'm sure we'll find something to argue about. I'm Lucas Semb, as always. This is Scott Procter and Matt Morris. Thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your week.